Okay, I think it's recording, guys. Okay. Hi, and good evening. So happy you guys have joined us. I wanted to put this call together because I know a lot of us are looking forward to filing our taxes, and there's a lot of questions that a lot of us have. I don't know a lot of the answers, and so I thought, how awesome would it be if we got an expert to help answer those questions? So I want to just say thank you, Grace, for being so abundant and sharing so much of your time and effort into educating us and answering any questions that everyone may have. So I'm going to go ahead and let Grace take over. And you guys are muted, so towards the end, when you have any questions, you'll just need to unmute yourself. Okay, go ahead, Grace. Thank you.
Awesome. Good evening, everyone. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because I have a presentation to share. Fun, if I can find it. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can. Oops.
Oh, you can.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. Well, anyways, hi, everyone. Now that I have my screen up there, just wanted to say thank you to Lynn for putting this together for us, because I know to me it's a wonderful idea, because I know that a lot of people might have some tax questions, and if you're like many of us, the word tax might freak you out. So hopefully you'll find this session to be a little bit helpful, and the objective of the call would be to know exactly or have a better idea of how to report your income and expenses for Rodan and Fields on your tax return. But before I dive into all that fun tax stuff, I just wanted to share a little bit about my background. I've been with Rodan and Fields for about 2 years now. I'm married with a 4-year-old little daughter. Her name is Ella. Her birthday was just yesterday, actually. I've been a CPA for over 15 years. I worked in public accounting and in the corporate world, specializing in tax. I'm a numbers girl. I really don't mind spreadsheets. I know, call me crazy, but endless math problems, really, I get a kick out of them. So I really do enjoy numbers. My experience was primarily focused on corporate tax, more so on the accounting and compliance side, but I've always prepared friends and family's tax returns, just kind of on the side, but it was always on top of my busy season work in the corporate world. So believe it or not, I actually enjoyed doing that. I just got a thrill seeing like refunds, and was nervous when I'd have to report to friends and family that they owed taxes, but either way, I was helping them out. So it was, great pleasure to be able to provide that service for them. Anyway, my husband has always encouraged me to start my own little CPA practice and take on more clients. The potential to work a tax busy season, January through April, around my daughter's schedule, and then have the ability to take the rest of the year off. I mean, ideal job. It always seemed like a wonderful idea, but when I was working my corporate job, I didn't have the brain capacity, time, or resources to even go down that path until actually just recently. I honestly wouldn't have been able to go down this path had I not said yes to RNF 2 years ago. That's the truth. RNF has given me the confidence to fully become my own boss, as well as the financial and time freedom to explore other avenues that still fulfill me professionally, but keep me at home with my daughter, which is my number one priority. Anyway, I just wanted to share that little tidbit, because wherever you are on your RNF journey, keep going. I can't stress this enough, that this business has proven way more to be than just a skincare company. It's given me so much purpose. It's turned, I have teammates who have now become family, and it's opened up so many doors that you wouldn't even imagine possible, just by signing up for the deepest discount, right? The opportunities that RNF can give to you in so many different ways are endless. And I'd like to say that I'm kind of living proof of that. So I'm very excited for each and every one of you. Enjoy the journey, the memories, and the tax write-offs. So we'll dive into that. Okay, so let's see here. Before I kick off and go into all the other details, tonight I wanted to just focus more so on the how to report your business as a sole proprietor on your individual tax return. So if some of you have set up your RNF business in a different manner, whether it's corporate, LLC, S corporation, partnership, whatever the case may be, that focus won't be on that, unfortunately, tonight, because if we were to cover all those topics, we'd be here all night. So tonight we're just going to talk about how to report it as a sole proprietor. I'm also going to stress that tonight's discussion is geared towards providing you guidance on the deductions to consider. Any specific details or tax planning strategies, please consult with your CPA. Tonight, again, is just more guidance and make you aware of some of the deductions that maybe you hadn't even thought of before. All right, so in January, you should have received your Form 1099 from Rodan & Fields corporate office, and the red arrow there points to box number 7 because that's the number that you should report as income on your tax return. It's blank there, but there should be a number on yours. If you made at least $600 last year in 2015, then you should have received this form from the company. If you didn't receive a form, it may mean that you didn't make the $600, but that doesn't mean you still can't report the income and expenses that you incurred to start and run your business. So if you know you made over $600, then at this point now you should reach out to corporate and follow up to see, if one is coming your way, if it got lost in the mail. I believe they were all mailed out. I don't think they did any electronic copies. So hopefully everyone that was expecting one has one. So this is the form that you should receive. If you don't have it, again, call corporate. Where would you report all of your income and expenses? On your Form 1040, which is the federal income tax return for individuals, there is a supplemental schedule called Schedule C. And it's essentially your profit and loss statement from your business. It's pretty straightforward. Well, then again, that's coming from an accountant. So this is where you would report all your income and then list all of your expenses. So if you're preparing your tax return on your own through TurboTax or H&R Block's website or whatever, I know there's several different tax preparation softwares out there. If it's not obvious right off the bat through the questionnaires that the software puts you through, look for Schedule C. That's where you want to report everything. This is the bottom half of the Schedule C. And you'll see here in the expenses portion, part 2, there's various different categories, right? Well, you're not limited to just these categories. There is another line on line 27A, if you guys can see that. Hopefully it's not too small, where you can list other expenses. So if you have an expense that may not fit in this category, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. You can always add a supplemental schedule to get those expenses reported. So what can you deduct? Again, the IRS defines business deductions or business expenses as the cost of carrying on a trade or business. These expenses are usually deductible if the business operates to make a profit, which I hope that's what we're all in the business to do, basically, is to hopefully make some money from all of our efforts and achieve the best skin of our lives. But so what can I deduct? To be deductible, a business expense must both be ordinary and necessary. I stress that because you wouldn't believe the kinds of questions that I would get, or, just in terms of what they can and cannot deduct. My recommendation would be just use professional judgment. If your hair appointment wasn't really necessary to run your business, maybe it's not quite the deduction you should report. But it's really up to you how you want to report your expenses. But an ordinary expense is one that is common and accepted in your trade or business. A necessary expense is one that is helpful and appropriate for your trade or business. So it's reiterated 3 or 4 different times. Basically, what's your business purpose for all of these expenses? So upon audit, hopefully that will never happen to any of you on this call, but upon audit, the reason why I stress ordinary and necessary is if you were questioned, especially the expenses on your RNF profit and loss statement, you need to be able to prove and substantiate all of your expenses that you deducted. So I have a slide on this later on, but just keep really good record and be able to justify everything that you're deducting on your return and how it relates to your business. So some specific samples of deductions would be, all of those products that we purchase through our CRP with our lovely discount. Those are deductible. All of our monthly Pulse subscription fees, deductible. Any expenses that you incur for advertising. I know there are certain corporate policies and procedures for advertising, but as long as you adhere to those policies, and if you do end up spending, whatever it is to post your ad for RNF, that is deductible. These ones here in asterisks, we're going to go into a little bit more detail. So if you see something on here that you're like, wait, Grace, give me more detail on that, don't worry. We're going to go into some of these in a little bit. So vehicle and auto expenses, office supplies, printing, postage, for all those samples that we're sending out to our lovely prospects. If you participate in any vendor events, the fees that you pay to get a table would be deductible. Tangible personal property. I realize that's more of an accounting term. So there's more details on that. Membership fees, if you are in any sort of networking group or you join some sort of mommy group and they have some sort of membership fee, for networking purposes, I say that justifies necessary and ordinary business expense because we have to always be out there networking. Your cell phone, my husband's favorite. Internet, meals and entertainment, travel, gifts, venue rental. If you have any BBLs or events at your local wine bar or your clubhouse, any of those expenses that you incurred to rent that venue is deductible. Again, supplies for samples and your home office. So RNF purchases. I know that Nikki has this on her Dream Builders page, but I wanted to share that with you guys again here. If you are trying to figure out how much you spent on RNF products last year, I know that you can go to rodanandfields.com, log in, like with your username and password, and then if you type in this rodanandfields.com, my office / order history, I think that'll have all of your activity. I think I haven't done this yet for this year, but I remember doing it last year and it was extremely helpful. Vehicle and auto expenses. Okay, so I hope all of you guys log your mileage, because why? You get 57.5 cents per mile driven. And that might not seem like a lot, but I kid you not. Round trip to and from San Diego, which is where I live, to San Jose can get me a $500 deduction because, it's that many miles, and it's a nice little deduction to add to your return. So there's two different methods that you can use. I personally prefer the mileage log, or basically reporting the mileage, versus the direct expense. The direct expense method, because for that you have to figure out how much of your car is used for business purposes, whereas if you know specifically that you drive your car to and from this meeting spot every week or every month for a particular event, RNF event, and how many miles you drove to get there, times that by 57.5 cents, and that's your deduction. To me, that's just a lot easier to track, but you have those two methods available to you. Again, just with like anything else, and all of your deductions that you're going to claim, keep good records of your miles. And what I mean by that, believe it or not, there's mileage tracker apps out there. So, I think the majority of us have smartphones, so you can go on and download an app, and every time you drive somewhere for RNF purposes, log it into the app. You can do the old school notebook thing, and I just recently saw that there's like a mileage log, kind of like a receipt book, but a mileage log book. I already have enough in my purse, so the app is my favorite thing to do. Or you can use Excel as well. Tangible personal property. So examples of this would be, generally these items are depreciable for tax purposes, meaning let's take a laptop, for instance. For tax purposes, a laptop can be depreciated over 5 years, meaning you wouldn't take that expense for the laptop in the year that it was incurred, but instead take it over 5 years. Take it as a deduction over 5 years. So let's say your laptop was $1,000. Divide that by 5. I mean, there's certain rules for that, but depreciation rules. But you would take a $200 expense on your particular laptop every year. However, there is an exception to the rule, which we all love as tax accountants. Section 179 deduction allows you to deduct up to $500,000 in purchases. So, if you're making any purchases over $500,000 for your business, then you might have to depreciate that purchase. But if your purchases are less than that, you can go ahead and deduct that using this exception in the year that it was purchased, rather than over the life of the asset. So other examples, your cell phone, and what I mean by cell phone is, the cost of the iPhone or your Android phone, any monitors that you might use for presentations, Apple TV. I'm sure some folks may have picked up one of those to do their BBLs, or Chromecast. These are just some of the examples that I've personally spent for our business here. Meals and entertainment. I don't know if many of you knew this, but meals and entertainment actually has a limitation. Generally speaking, you can only deduct up to 50% of the cost of your meals and entertainment for your business purposes. So specific examples for your meals expense would be if you went out with your business partners or teammates, or took a prospect out to dinner. You can deduct the cost of that particular dinner, especially if you're the one. Well, if you're the one paying, yes, you can deduct, but it's limited up to only 50%. Same goes with entertainment expenses. I mean, you can Google the definition of what qualifies as, or what's considered an entertainment expense, but Some of the costs that come to mind would be like concert tickets, Disneyland tickets, anything that would be categorized as entertainment. At your BBLs, I'm pretty sure we're buying lots of champagne, wine, cheese, meats, desserts, cupcakes, whatever you buy for your BBLs or for your events. The groceries, the catering, the plates, the knives, the cups, all of that. That's all deductible. But the food and especially if it's catered, or if you provide entertainment at your BBL, those are all limited again for 50% to 50%. Keep good records. Once again, I'm going to reiterate this many, many times. I personally recommend that if you get a receipt, to write the name of the people that you had lunch or dinner with, or the business meal, and keep that. The IRS does have up to 3 years to come back and audit you, 7 years if you don't file your tax return. So, having the physical receipt is one way to justify that expense. If you don't have the receipt anymore, the next best thing I would say would be your credit card statement. If you go through and highlight, you knew that on such and such day we went to Cheesecake Factory and I remember so-and-so was there and so-and-so was there. So, print out your credit card statements or save them as a PDF, make notes to what you remembered as being business expense. That would be ideal in terms of record keeping. All right. I know Lynn specifically had a question about this one. So gifts, there really is, there is a limit to the cost of the gifts that you incur for business purposes. And that limit is actually $14,000. So if you end up gifting someone $14,001 or more in cash or property, you may need to file a gift tax return. So if you think this applies to you, if you're gifting things, and this limit is per person. So if you're gifting $14,000 in total to 30 different people, that's not an issue. But if you're giving one particular person $14,000 or more, then this is when the gift tax return rule applies. So consult your CPA if you think that this is something that applies to you. In terms of travel, I know we love to travel a lot. And so anytime that we could travel and do some sort of RNF event while we're out and about, the better, because all of the expenses that we just incurred, essentially, there are some limitations and judgment calls that I personally would exercise, but your hotel, the rental car that you need to drive around, the airfare to and from your destination, bus, train, the internet and Wi-Fi charges that you purchased in your hotel room, those are all deductions. If you're on this trip for business purposes, you can deduct it. I would say, when I say exercise professional judgment, if you're on a 10-day vacation and you're really only doing business for 3 or 4 days, then I would deduct maybe 3 or 4 days of your rental car, your hotel, basically prorate it. All right. Business deductions for your home office expenses. I wish my home office looked that nice. It's nowhere near that clean. But with home office expenses, there are, again, 2 methods: the simplified method and the regular method. Under the simplified method, you can deduct up to $5 per square foot of the home that you're using, or home, apartment, garage, whatever you're using in your house for business purposes. So for example, my home office is in our loft, and last year I had my husband measure our loft and he wrote it down on a napkin for us. And I actually kept that for safekeeping in case I was ever asked. But your home office needs to be, primarily dedicated to your RNF. I guess like your RNF inventory, or just where you conduct your business. If you're sitting there all day, every day doing your reach outs and Facebook posts, like if you can justify that home office is used for rhododendron fields, you can deduct the cost that you need or that you incur to upkeep this home office. So that's a simplified method. Up to 300 square feet or $1,500 would be the maximum allowed. And that's like the easy way to go if you don't want to go through the hassle of finding out how much utilities you need to allocate to this, room in your house. But if you want to be more specific, and you never know, because you might actually get more of a benefit by doing this, you can calculate what your direct and indirect expenses are to maintain this office of yours in your home. So examples would be your rent, your utilities, your HOA, believe it or not, interest and property taxes if you own the property, the homeowner's insurance, mortgage insurance, all of that, trash, water. I missed that, but yes, water you can deduct. But how you would figure that out would be, again, measure the square footage of your home, and let's say that the room takes 25% of your entire house. It's 25% of the total square footage of your home. Then all of the expenses that I've listed here as samples, 25% of that would count as home office expenses. There are other implications that if you decide to go this route, there, you might have some basis. I guess the basis of your home will now have to be recalculated if you decide to do this method. It's probably a little bit more complicated than we want to get into tonight, but if that's something that you decide you want to benefit from, then ask your CPA for more details. Just to make sure that that's the right method for you to choose. The limitation is, however, you can only deduct home office expenses to the extent of the income you earn from your business. So what I mean by that is, let's say you made $5,000 from Rodan and Fields last year. And after gathering all of your expenses and calculating how much of that relates to your home office, you've come up with $7,000 of total home office expense. Well, you're limited to just the $5,000. You can't, basically the home office deduction cannot give you a loss. Whereas some of the other deductions that I covered in previous slides, they can kick you into a loss, and you can therefore take that benefit on your return. But for this particular deduction, if this is all that you had, home office expenses, you'd be limited to the income that you brought in through RNF. All right. So lastly, again, and I hate to be a broken record, but it's really important to keep really good records. And personal suggestions from me for good record keeping: if you're great with Excel, go with Excel. Just start listing out exactly, what your expenses were for. The more detailed, the better. Again, you don't want to be audited and have to go back 2-3 years and justify every business expense. I already don't have a great memory. So if I had to go back 2 years ago and go, okay, this expense at Cheesecake, was it really for business or was it for family dinner? So the better record keeping you have, the better it'll stand up against any sort of audit, which again, I hope none of you ever have to go through, because it's not a fun process. But again, just keep great records. So if you're a notebook person, you want to write it down, go ahead and do that. If you are a techie person and you want to do something, track it on an app. I've used Expensify before, and that's worked out well. I haven't explored too many apps because once I find one, I kind of just stick with it. But I know that there's a QuickBooks for independent contractors, and I've looked into that, and it looks really great. So I think I'm going to transition to that fairly soon. And I know many of us are guilty. I think I'm guilty of this too, but a shoebox of receipts that you're going to bring to your CPA's office is not highly encouraged. So my advice would be to go through, if you can, have the time and the patience, if you do have this shoebox of receipts, go through and categorize them, put all your meals and entertainment together, put all of your gift expenses together. And if you're great with Excel, add them all up and kind of show up at your CPA's office with a list of those particular expenses. Already have your mileage kind of total tallied up. Anything and everything that you can think of that you'd want to benefit from in terms of a tax deduction. Even if you're just like, does this qualify? It doesn't hurt to present that to your CPA and have him or her help you decide if that's, something that you can deduct. So use professional judgment again. We don't want anyone to get audited, never a fun process. And substantiate all of those expenses that you have, credit card receipts, the actual receipts from the establishment where you incurred the expense, or, whatever your bank statements, whatever you think that can help you stand up against the audit. But hopefully none of you ever have to go through that. So I think that covers most of the questions. I mean, Lynn, if we want to open it up.
Okay, awesome.
We could do that.
Thank you, Grace. That was so good. So much information. Okay. Grace, are you able to share some of those slides?
Yeah.
Okay, so some of those bullets I really enjoyed. I just wasn't able to write it all down, and I think it would be great for other people to see it again too.
Certainly. Let's see here. Let me stop.
And you guys, if you are looking for a CPA, I would strongly just recommend Grace, because just hearing her talk about like her experience with filing herself, it's so great to know that, someone understands our business. And so if you want her information, definitely reach out. I'm gonna post also a thank you. But you guys are welcome to ask any questions that you have while we have Grace on the call.
Grace, this is Chanela. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, thank you so much for this evening. It was very, very beneficial. But I do have one question regarding a computer. If you have repair expenses for your computer, is that a deduction?
Yeah. Is it a computer that you use for Rodan and Fields?
Yes. And software, if you purchase, if you purchased a Microsoft Office for your business, would that be an expense?
Certainly, yes.
Okay.
And that reminds me, thank you very much. I don't know if some of you have purchased a subscription to Zoom, because I know some of us on the team love to use Zoom for team calls. That monthly subscription, definitely deductible.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Grace.
Yeah.
Hi, it's Jeannie.
Oh, hi.
Hello. I have a question. So I know that, the shoebox receipt is out, and I am using QuickBooks right now, but wanted to know if we need to maintain the receipts that we've logged, and at what dollar value would you say is unnecessary?
Everyone has their own opinion about that. I err on the side of conservatism more so my husband doesn't like this, but I keep a lot of our receipts. So it's just, I know I've been through the process, not personally on my own tax return, but for some of my clients. And just the more you have, the better. But, you know, you could, if you had the time to like scan it all into like the hard drive or something. I know they have some really cool apps where you take a picture of your receipt and it kind of saves it for you.
Yeah.
But I would retain it for at least 3 years after you filed your return.
Okay, thank you.
And then you can have a purging shredding party.
Right.
Grace, this is Raquel. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. If I'm fairly new, as you know, and I know I didn't make 600 in 2015 because I was so new. Do I even need to do anything? Do I need to do anything with the Rodan and Fields business, during our tax appointment?
You know, that's a great question. And I'm glad that you brought that up because I wanted to mention it while we were on the actual presentation part. But it's come to my attention that if you are to bring your actual return to a CPA, or let's say to like one of the H&R box or a service of that sort, that they actually charge you extra per form. So you know how we brought up the Schedule C form on the screen? That I believe is an extra charge. So it's up to you if you're willing to do the calculation on your own to see if it's worth it. You know, if you had enough expenses to, you know, startup expenses, like whatever it was, if you started in November and you had, you know, travel expenses, your cell phone, you still had to pay for your cell phone. You still had to pay for your internet in November, December, even though you didn't make the income. You can still you can claim those deductions. And if your deductions exceed your income, then that's a loss, which means it's a benefit to you, reducing your taxes on your personal income tax return. So it's really up to you. I mean, maybe your CPA is willing to run a calculation to see what the cost benefit would be to actually file it.
Okay.
But in terms of standing up against audit, you're totally justifiable because you have your enrollment date, you know, you have the costs that you incurred. Just like with any business, the IRS understands that, and any taxing authority understands that it takes time for a company or a business to make money. So losses your first couple of years makes sense.
Okay. One more question.
Sure.
Is your initial business kit, is that the cost for your initial business kit, is that a write-off?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, Grace. It's Elena.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you for doing this for us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
I have actually a few questions. So
Sure.
I just wanted to make sure, like the PC perks enrollment fees, if we reimburse that
Oh, yes.
to our PCs, we can also deduct that, right?
Yes, great question. I did several of those last year and I deducted it. So it constitutes a business expense. It's kind of like a gift, if you will.
Right.
If you don't want to categorize it as PC reimbursement, you can do it as gift.
And like during Christmas, you give out gifts as well.
Oh, yes.
Or
Yes.
yeah,
All
and
that.
then all that. And then sometimes too, like I give my PCs my consultant discount. So it's like, can we deduct that as well as like the difference between the PC price? Yeah.
Yes, I would. I've done that before on my return, and knock on wood, haven't been audited. Passed audit. And you know, on the TurboTax thing, I don't know if you guys have ever used TurboTax, but my return is always on the red side, meaning very highly likely for audit, and haven't been audited yet. So, yeah, I would treat that as, again, a gift or however you want to categorize that. But I think that's what I categorized it last year.
Okay. And like books that we buy for like personal development and stuff like that, and training, we can also deduct those, right?
Yes. the cost for convention, the cost for any audiobooks, all of that.
Okay. And then lastly, I know there's a lot of consultants who just purchase or who just sign up just for the discount. And they're not into it for the business. So I don't know. What's your opinion on that? Can they still deduct their product expenses? Or
I personally have or know some teammates who join the business simply for the tax break, and there's plenty of that going on. In my own personal opinion, everyone's looking for that tax loophole, and starting your own small business is a great benefit to those who have the deductions. So yeah, you can claim it. Just know that if the IRS were to come and try to substantiate it, again, if it's not like hundreds of thousands of dollars, you should be fine.
Yeah.
If it's 100 here and there, again, just have, if you are making this kind of like a big push or big draw for your prospects to sign up, like you get to benefit from all the tax deductions. I know we've used that in some of our presentations. Just make sure that they know to again, keep all their records substantiated. I would I joked around with some of my teammates who are just in it for the tax. Get 1 or 2 PCs and you're in business.
Yeah. Okay, thanks so much, Grace.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Rosetta here.
Hi.
Hi, I had a question along those lines of the tax deduction. So if we tell people to join for the tax deductions and that's really great and everything, I heard that you can only be at a loss for a certain number of years before they want you to make a profit. Is that correct?
That's something that just recently came to my attention. Again, at the beginning when I mentioned that, individual taxes is something that I've always been interested in doing. So I'm ramping up my knowledge on all of the, more detailed information, but I'm apprenticing under a CPA currently who just brought that to my attention. Whereas if after 5 years you're continuing to show losses, and again, this is just something you might want to look into or consult your CPA about. I can certainly look into it a little bit more and follow up with everyone. But after 5 years, if you're still showing a loss, it may be considered a hobby loss. And therefore, you might be limited in terms of the losses that you're reporting on your return. But yes.
Okay, so it's 5 years, you said?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
But hopefully everyone who's in this, not just for a hobby, will be turning a profit within 5 years. If not sooner.
Agreed.
I have a question.
Yes.
So when you were talking about the limitations on the office,
yes.
Is that when you were saying about to the extent of our income, does that apply only to the home office or does that apply to the whole business?
No. Just to home office expenses.
Okay.
The IRS caught on to that. You can't deduct everything related to your house and get away with it. Yeah. The limitation for is only on your home office expenses.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, I have one more question.
Sure.
So in regards to the meals, you said we can only deduct up to 50%.
Yes.
If we're logging that, if our meal was $100, you're saying we should only log in $50 of that?
Correct. It depends on how your CPA, or if you're doing it yourself on the tax preparation software. If you are just handing your receipts to your CPA, then, or giving the number to your CPA, they might ask you, is this already with the 50% limitation? Because that's pretty typical limitation. Or on the software that you're using. I can't recall if on TurboTax you have to enter it already as 50%. So kind of just look at that when if you're preparing it yourself, or make note of it if you're giving it to your CPA, that's either 100% or 50%. So that way you can maximize the benefit.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any more questions, guys? Let's see, what time is it? Oh, perfect. Right before an hour. Okay, any more questions for Grace?
Oh, Lynn, I know someone had asked about categorizing your items on the return. It's whatever you think is necessary. Like in terms of the categories, you probably don't want to have 50 different categories, but group the expenses as they're like similar.
Okay.
I think there was one other question about franchise taxes and business licenses.
Mm-hmm.
I know that question came up before as a team, and it's in the policy procedures. But as far as I know, in terms of franchise taxes, we may not be liable, but don't quote me on that. I just wanted to address it, that we should probably look into policies and procedures on the website for that.
Okay.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
Hey, Grace, it's Veronica here.
Hi.
Hey, thanks for taking the time to do this for us. Totally appreciate it. I was wondering, there was a question earlier about like rebating or gifting the $20 preferred customer fee.
Yeah.
Or gifting, I should say. What's the best way to, like when we offer that to people, what's the best way to give that $20 back to them? So like instead of, I've heard of some people giving cash, some people doing a check, and then like a money order or something like that. What's the best way, so when it does come to tax time, if we are questioned, it just makes things a little bit more streamlined and easier.
Right. So if you were for record keeping in terms of, tracking these expenses, just with like anything else, like cash is a little bit more difficult to track, right? So, but I understand if you're like at a big BBL or presentation that you might have a bunch of $20 bills on you ready for the cash reimbursement of PC perks. But I personally use PayPal because in that way I can, at the end of the year, what I do is I print a record of all of my transactions. And then from there, in PayPal, you can make note of certain things. So if I just did this the other day, I reimbursed a friend who purchased a macro key. I reimbursed his PC perk. And in the note, I put, reimbursement of PC perks. So if I needed to, I can go back and print all of that out and have that as my record.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Or if you use a check, you can write in the memo section, PC reimbursement, and then have that as your record.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great questions, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Grace, very much. This is Chanel. I'm going to leave the meeting now. Thanks again.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? You guys have any other questions?
Grace, do you know of any CPAs here in the Bay Area?
Who's talking?
Oh, sorry, it's Veronica.
Oh, hi, Veronica. Sorry. In the Bay Area, no, I no, actually, I'm trying to think, but all of my Bay Area contacts are like with the big four firms, and I just know they charge arm and a leg. You wouldn't want to go down that route. So I personally, when I got into individual taxes, it was more so down here already in San Diego.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, so Grace, like if someone if someone was interested, let's say, in having you do their taxes and they're not in San Diego, how would that work? Like, do they send you all their paperwork and their receipts? Do you need that stuff?
Well, you have to come visit me in San Diego. No, I'm kidding. I made Grace do that last year. I even have an extra room for you all. You can barbecue. No, I'm kidding. I mean, yeah, if you're interested, I can certainly help you out. There's several ways that you can send it to me if you want to. I mean, if you have income outside of Rodan and Fields, like your W-2, I know that could be very sensitive information because it has your Social Security on it. There is a questionnaire that I have that you can fill in with that information and then have that sent over. Or you can secure all that information, encrypt it on a file, and send it to me via password protected. Yeah, those are the various ways.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Anyone else? You guys have any other questions? So I think that's it, Grace. Thank you again for sharing your wisdom and knowledge with us. That was a lot of good information. And this is recording, so I'll go ahead and stop the recording, and you guys will be able to replay it. So yeah, that's it. Good night, everyone.
Thanks, Grace.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.